It's Joe, your faithful host and co-founder of Command Control Power, the longest-running Apple consulting podcast. In case you missed our birthday, we just celebrated our 10th anniversary this summer. For 10 years, we've been getting together each and every week to bring you epic tales of tech support and business management, and I'm pretty sure we've saved a lot of people a ton of time by sharing our struggles and solutions. Starting now, we're shifting our focus to the Patreon community. That means the newest shows will be posted primarily on Patreon. How do you get the latest episodes? Visit commandcontrolpower.com and click on support. Pledge monthly, and you can instantly subscribe to the weekly patron-only episodes right in your favorite podcast app. If you already support us on Patreon, log in there to get your special link and subscribe to the patron-only show so you don't miss anything. Here on the public show, we'll be featuring classic episodes hand-selected for you from our catalog of over 500 episodes, along with occasional new episodes too. And remember, we're regularly releasing new content on Patreon, where you can join our community of supporters starting at just $15 per month, giving you access to the freshest content. We feature dozens of exclusive shows on Patreon where we speak a little more freely about how we make business decisions, navigate client relationships, manage our employees, and sometimes deal with mistakes and difficulties too. Plus, as a patron, you receive access to our entire back catalog where you can revisit classic episodes and learn from colleagues we've interviewed who've shared their own best practices. Visit commandcontrolpower.com and click support to pledge monthly on Patreon. We'd really appreciate your support, and we're confident your business will benefit from the wisdom of the community we've gathered there. Thanks for listening, and we hope you enjoy this episode of Command Control Power. Before we start the show, I wanted to bring to everyone's attention that we're going to be sending out an anonymous Apple Consulting Rates and Plans survey for 2024. So we want to get your feedback as soon as possible and talk about this on a future show. This will be a Patreon-only episode that will talk about the results of this survey. Maybe for obvious reasons, we don't want to make it such a public topic, but we're very happy to share this with our dozens of Patreon supporters, and we would love to have you among them. So you can always go to commandcontrolpower.com and click on support. You can find out more about how to support us on Patreon. You get a lot of extra content that way, including the show where we're going to be discussing the results of this survey that we're sending out. So the survey is meant to collect information about the structure of your managed services plan, the monthly rate that you charge for your managed services plan, how you bill for macOS versus iOS or iPadOS, whether that's the same price or different, et cetera. If you charge the same for remote versus on-site consulting, what your billable hourly rate is for remote support and on-site support, any discounts you might offer to your monthly plan subscribers. So if somebody signs up for your plan and you have a posted hourly rate for the sort of public, people who are not on your plan, do you discount your hourly rate for your plan subscribers? Or maybe you don't offer to support clients who don't have a managed services plan. So there's ways of answering these different questions to tell us a little bit about your business, and also just a little add on there for which products you use, so we can just have a sense of who's among us using Adigy, for example, et cetera. And options for questions and comments. We'd love to have your feedback also about the show. You can include that all in this quick little survey. So start thinking about how you would answer these questions about how you structure your managed services plan, your monthly rate, your hourly rates, and so on. We're going to send this out in the Mac Admins Slack Command Control Power channel. So go to the Command Control Power channel on the Mac Admin Slack and look for it there. You'll also see the link in the show notes to the survey, so you can just cut right to the chase, click the link, and add your voice to the survey results. Any feedback you provide will be shared anonymously. As I mentioned, it's an anonymous survey. You can include your email address. So if you're not a Patreon supporter and you're not going to hear that episode where we talk more in depth about the results of the survey and our kind of thoughts and feedback on that, you can include your email address when you fill out the survey, and we'll share some of those results with you as well.
Exactly. So I know what you're thinking. Before you send your angry letters to Joe that this is only for Patreon subscribers, if you participate in this survey, you will get the results of the survey if you provide your email. Even though we're making this an exclusive to our Patreon subscribers, if you participate in the survey, you will get the information as well.
That's right. And you're welcome to include a private email address in there, like that isn't tied to you personally. You don't have to put in your name. You can just leave it
Proton
blank.
mail.
Exactly. Use whatever method you want to include an email address where we can contact you with that information. We would love to have your feedback. You're not compelled to respond to this at all. You can ignore me. You can. I hope you don't send hate mail my way because I'm asking for this information. This is just an idea that came up from some of our listeners who asked us to share more about rates and how dependent on the market it is with different ways of charging and monthly plans and hourly rates and things like that. So we're hoping to just be able to share with the community a little bit of this information that we gather from the community. So this is a service we're trying to do in the interest of just more information being out there in the community. So feel free to participate or not, and we hope that you do. So look for the link in the show notes to the Google form. It's a quick anonymous survey, and we'd love to see the results. And now on with the show.
I got a nice, unprompted, unsolicited email from a client, which I think we all know is pretty rare. It was out of nowhere. I'm working along, just being frustrated in my normal day, getting all pissed off about something. And an email comes in from this customer that we've been working with for, I don't know, maybe a year and a half. Good sized client, 20-something people, very nice. No real major problems, but it's not like we were kicking it out of the park. And so she sends a nice email and she says, "Hi, Sam, I just wanted to reach out and let you know that I absolutely love working with HCS. You and your entire team, all the guys, everyone is just so awesome to work with, so responsive and nice. I'm so happy that we switched and finally found the right provider for us. Thank you." That sounds like I asked for it in a review. It was like too perfect. But I was shocked. Not shocked that she said it, just shocked that you don't get that kind of stuff. If you're in conversation or chatting or you're friendly with the person already, maybe, but it just doesn't come out of the blue like that. So I just wanted to share that because I'm always bitching on the show and complaining and doing this and that. And that was a really nice thing. We were talking about doing a 2-company happy hour for the holidays just to all get together, which is cool, actually.
That's very cool. Yeah, especially being unsolicited, it means that much more. And like you said, I think it's pretty rare to get any kind of positive feedback. So that's great, Sam.
But when it came in, I immediately copied and pasted into my show notes. I got to talk about this on the show. This is incredible.
You know? And as Jerry would say, it's not a raw thing. It's just a nice little thing to share.
Yeah. I was pretty happy about it. What kind of client are they? Advertising and marketing.
All too infrequently do we get anything like that. So when they do come through, it's definitely worth mentioning. So congratulations.
Thanks, man. Yeah.
On the heels of that good news, Sam, I actually lost a client. I lost one last month that I believe I talked about on a Patreon show. And this is one of our public shows, but this is the type of stuff that we talk about on Patreon. Sometimes that might take place with a client that might be privy and confidential. We feel that we could share a little bit more openly on Patreon. But this one was a client, a doctor's office, and they had moved on once before. And they went to a PC MSP, and very quickly, within a year's time, they came back and we said, "Sure, we'll take you back." And this was a problem when they left, and it's continued to be a problem since we took them back, which was maybe about 2 years ago, 3 years ago, is that they just neglect to upgrade their equipment. So their equipment is really old. Most of their Macs are 6 to 8 years old. They don't engage. So even though it was a little bit of money, but I was almost relieved that they decided to part ways. Interestingly, we put in a really nice Ubiquity system that was capable of doing expansion. We had just some casual conversation like, "Oh, no problem. What we've put in for you is completely expandable." I got an email and they said, "We're growing and looking towards the future, and it looks like we might need some 24/7 monitoring." So I'm not sure what that meant. Yeah. I looked at that sentence and I thought he's probably already talked to somebody and he probably made his decision already. And it sounded a little hand wavy. Oh, you need 24/7 monitoring. Look at this place. So we sent him a nice letter back, courtesy of ChatGPT, and said, "We'll be happy to work with you on a pay-as-you-go basis, with the understanding that there wouldn't be an absolute response time, that we would have to get back to them." And that was it. And we said, "Let us know by the end of the month if this is what you want to do, and we'll remove all our software and have a good 2024. So it was a relief because they weren't engaging, and the day of reckoning was coming soon. It would be imminent that either one machine or multiple machines would start to massively underperform, and then you'd have to scramble around and all the things that we don't like to do from clients who don't engage.
Like you said, Jerry, we do talk more in depth about some of these client interactions on the Patreon show. Your story is reminding me of some of the clients I'm dealing with where I've really lost my tolerance for supporting clients who don't engage. I've really come around to this idea that it's not about necessarily requiring a contract. If they engage on an ongoing basis, it tends to work out because you catch issues, maybe if not proactively, then at least more actively than like the random call every once a year from a client who ends up having some really significant issues. And they're calling you about one of those significant issues and you're discovering 5 more, and maybe they're interrelated and maybe they're not. Maybe there's one that's higher priority that you discover in the course of working with them on the first one. And it's just, it always becomes a mess. They never have the sort of budget or tolerance to engage on all the issues that they have. And so we end up doing best effort support, and it feels a little bit like they're not getting taken care of in the way that we want them to be taken care of. And I've really been drawing the line at that. And I had one come up a week or two ago. We were very busy. I was working on my office, the final phase of closing my office. So I will talk about that in a Patreon show as well, more in detail about the numbers, like the total sales on eBay and the total charges on eBay, including a couple of costly mistakes that I will share the circumstances about.
So just to be clear, Joe, you were liquidating a lot of your office gear and you were coming back to Connecticut and you were actually doing a lot of eBay transactions.
And I had a limited window of time to do that. And like I said, I'll talk about the sort of final recap of that project. It was really great to go through. I'm feeling very good that I finally got through it. There were moments in there where I was like, oh man, this is still really daunting. And in some of those moments, I'd have clients reach out. And again, I shared one on the Patreon show where they reached out and they were like, I know I dropped the ball in scheduling recently and now I need you right away. And they're not on a plan and they don't engage and the stuff's out of date and they don't have backup. It's just a mess. And then they want immediate help when they decide. And I had a similar one just last week when I was working in the office and had a limited time to get things done. And this client reached out and said, help, I restarted my Mac, but the progress bar would only go halfway and then go black and try again. Then this macOS utility screen came up. I don't know what to do. And of course, I have to deliver something by end of day tomorrow. This is at 5:25 on a Tuesday. Can someone help me tomorrow morning? So I responded 10 minutes later and I said, hi, client, we're super booked with the holiday this week. Thanksgiving week was a few weeks ago, actually. And I was in the midst of working on just getting ready for this final phase of the office clear out. And we were fully booked and it's the holiday and everything else. I said, we have to prioritize our SciMac Prime subscribers when we're fully booked. How's next week? Please use this link to schedule your remote appointment. So I gave her my Harmonizely link. And thanks to you, Jerry. Yeah, exactly.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So I sent it out because I'm like, I just wanted to just schedule something of the few times that I had listed available, because again, it was in the midst of this busy phase and the Thanksgiving holiday here in the US. Here's the link, pick something next week. I couldn't help her that moment. She basically was saying, can you help me within 3 hours, first thing in the morning, tomorrow morning? I'll do that if it's a time sensitive thing for a planned client. I won't do that for a client that the previous contact was maybe a 15-minute question about a year ago. So there's not a lot of benefit to working with this client. So I just kicked the can down the road for a week in theory. Didn't get a response. Nothing showed up in Harmonizely. She didn't reply to my little contact, right? Okay. So then yesterday at 5:30 p.m. Hello there. When I last contacted you, my machine had died. I got a new one and did the migration, but want to make sure everything is as it should be and backing up correctly. Let me know when you might have time. Okay. So then 4 hours later, this is last night, like 9:30 last night, she writes, me again. I just wanted to add as soon as possible, please. Thank you. So this sat in my inbox today because I was fully booked. I was scheduled back to back. I wasn't prioritizing this random client that calls us once in a while for some basic thing, and it's usually a crisis. So all of this comes to mind because, Jerry, you said, we'll be happy to support you. We won't guarantee any kind of turnaround time, but let us know if you need help in the future. And I'm always torn about that when I'm either not getting engagement on selling a plan, or certainly if they want to disengage from a plan, they can't expect the same kind of service. You've already established that, but sometimes it's just not a lot of benefit to working with them in the first place. So I don't know. How do you feel about if they actually did reach out to you? Do you feel motivated to try and help?
Of course not. You were pretty straightforward about it, and given her opportunities, I don't see where. Of course, she's going to be all pissed off about it. As soon as possible is to them. There's always a fire, but they don't realize you have a company and organization to run. It's absurd.
Yeah. And having sent the link 2 weeks ago, she could have had a time on the calendar for last week, or she could have read my email and scheduled it for this week because she knew she's getting the new computer coming in, or whatever the case is. You got a new computer. Okay. That was the way you navigated that. You set it up, you migrated it. It's like all of these things you could have let me know with at least 1 or 2 days more notice, knowing that the computer was coming in, was getting migrated, whatever process you used for that. There's a lack of consideration about, like you said, we're running a business. I have other clients that are frankly more important. They do engage, they do get better service, and I am here to give them better service. I'm not here to drop everything that I might have had already pre-scheduled with a week's notice in some cases for these other clients and help this person who didn't think to give me a more than 0 notice, basically, or a day's notice or something. It's frustrating. But what about you, Jerry, with this client? You offboard them. I'm surprised you're not just washing your hands of the situation at this point.
There's always an opportunity for them to get what's coming. I'm not waiting by the phone for them to be in trouble or to need assistance. But if they do need assistance, things are changed. The rules have changed. It's in a way, I'm glad that they're gone, because if I do want to engage with them again, it's my rules now. So I'm not going to engage with those older machines. I'm not going to do that. I can address the networking equipment that we put in last year, but I'm not going to play Reindeer games with machines that are 8 years old. So I'm relieved because I'm off the hook for feeling, geez, this person's a regular subscriber. Yeah, I've been telling them to upgrade and they haven't, but now they're in a pickle because the front desk machine is down and they're using that all day long. I'm going to jump through hoops of fire to try to make this good. And maybe I'll get a gold star for that day. And of course that never happens. So now it's just a completely different relationship. So I'm happy. And if they don't come back, they don't come back. You can't wring your hands, because we've been through this too many times, all of us, and everyone listening, I would imagine. When you get upset and the holidays are coming and you're not going to let this person and their little small myopic world ruin your world. No, forget it.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's where I've been drawing the line as well. And by the way, I share more of these client emails on the Patreon show. This is a fairly innocuous one. Some of them get pretty detailed. It's not even like I dislike this particular client. I like the client personally. I have no issue with them personally. It's just that they're not engaging with us in the way that we work effectively. And again, I'm not motivated to try and bend over backwards to try to help them. And maybe they come around, and sometimes they do. Sometimes clients do say, I see the error of my ways. I've turned a few of them around in the past where it has gone better. But if this is just the way they work, maybe they will find someone else who works this way and they'll get support and that'll be fine by me. And I've realized that I can't keep saying, well, you have to do X, Y, and Z. It's really important to do that. And we'd really think you should get this plan because, you're a business and this and that. And we monitor your backups and things that like you always struggle with and whatever. The reasons are good. And I keep saying these things and then they just decline or ignore or whatever, including you're describing not upgrading equipment and everything else. And then I still work with them. And so I'm saying that this is important to do and this will make things better. And I'm saying we will prioritize you as a Prime subscriber, but then I'm basically still supporting the equipment and I'm still helping them within their terms generally. And that's what I'm changing lately is I don't have the bandwidth to keep doing that. And so there will be consequences. I had another client who she's 80 years old. She's great. We love her personally. She's great to work with. She's just a good person. And also doesn't need a lot of complicated things anymore. She's retired and only recently retired. And when something came up, like her printer wasn't working, there wasn't even necessarily, as far as we knew, any particular need to print anything at that time. This was her biggest concern. And it wasn't something we had the space for to say, all right, let me look at what's going on with your printer. All right, if needed, let's spec a new one. And then guess what? We're going to probably want to schedule an onsite to set it up. I'm not going to have you unpack it at 80 something years old and plug things in and crawl under the desk and whatever else. Like she would be asking for an onsite. So we didn't have the bandwidth to do that. And we told her, we said, we're busy right now. We're fully booked and we're prioritizing other clients who are monthly subscribers. That's part of our offering. It's like, we're not doing it because we're trying to teach you a lesson. It's just that we are busy right now. And that's part of the plan, is that we've made a commitment to support those other clients, right? This is all implied in what we're saying, all very natural. But she basically responded in a way where, this is paraphrasing, but it was, did I do something wrong? Can you not help me anymore? It made me feel bad. Like, did I word this wrong? What? And so then recently we got back to her. Here's the recommendation for a new printer and so on. And she wrote us a really sweet email to let us know, almost like Sam's client did, that she really appreciates our help. She loves working with us. She's relieved that we're still working with her and this and that. But it just illustrated for me the difference between the way I used to handle this stuff, which was, I know you've declined my recommendation, but I'll work late. I'll stay up even later than I'm already staying up working to get back to you and prioritize this. And that's the way I used to go. And now I'm really trying to have better boundaries about that kind of thing. And the clients are noticing, I think, and it's a little tricky to navigate.
That's a good thing. I know that they're noticing, and it's creating some potential difficulties, but it's a good thing in the grand scheme of things, right? Like, you're standing up for what you need to do to be sane in your business, and for them to respect the fact that this is the way I operate, and you need to respect my time as well. So I love that you're doing that. It's hard because I remember, I'm still trying to transition some people, but it's so hard to do because you have sometimes a personal affection to them. You like them as a person, you get along, and now you're going to be like, listen, you got to pay attention to my rules here. And it's a little dicey.
Right. Yeah. Speaking of not following the rules, and also sometimes legacy clients, Tim mentioned in the midst of this, when this client had emailed and left a voicemail and then left another voicemail. It was one of these, Jerry loves these clients who leave 5 voicemails about one issue within the span of a day.
I had one of those today. Go ahead.
Oh man. Yeah. And so she was contacting us, and I got back to her. And then, so Tim didn't see that I had responded, and he mentioned to me when I was in the office, oh, that client texted me, I'm going to give her a call on the way, this and that. And I said, oh, she texted you? And he said, yeah, to my personal phone. I don't know if she had it at some point, whatever. Again, he likes her. He wants to accommodate her. And also, he's still trained in the old mode. Customer service at all costs kind of thing was our default MO. And so like, now I'm also trying to retrain him to say, you can assert policy here. You can say, this is our policy. We're just very busy. Or better yet, just let me know, okay, this client texted me. Did anyone get back to her? And I'll just say, yeah, I got back to her and she's sitting tight as far as we know. But instead he's, oh, I texted her back that I would call her. So I think I'll just give her a call. I'd prefer you don't, but I'm not going to tell him what to do in that sense. And I appreciate he's erring on the side of customer service and maintaining that relationship. But he called her, and I said, just make sure you let her know, please follow the normal channels, because it's just a little hard to track. I don't want you getting text messages and having to deal with clients and you're not sure of the status when you're away or something, or off for a Christmas holiday, or so it's tricky, and they just get used to these old ways, and it's hard for them to change. One
thing that you said, how you're not going to tell him what to do because he was going that route. Couldn't you though?
I could. Yeah. I thought about that as I was saying it. My job. It's like, I could tell him what to do. I could say, don't call her. This is our policy. Let me reaffirm the policy here to her and to him to some degree. I could have done that. It wasn't worth taking a stand on, especially he's going to call her from the car. It wasn't like, I'm going to bump a different client that I think shouldn't be bumped and take this one. It was, I'll just call her on my way, so she knows that we still like her or something, whatever it is. But yeah, that's a good point. Certainly at some point there may be a time where I have to just say, this is our new policy. I've already been talking to Judy about it as well. How can we handle these clients who perpetually don't engage and don't sign up for our plans? A lot of them are legacy clients. I still haven't been requiring a monthly plan for new clients, but certainly we're a lot more interested in engaging with clients that are on monthly plans. A business, I think I might say, has to have a plan, unless, I don't know, maybe if it was really small or something. But we do take on residential clients still. And so those are more a gray area, but I do strongly encourage it, and I try and sell it.
Off mic, Joe, you and I discussed this client that I had told the story of a few minutes ago.
I thought so. Yeah.
And one of the things that was interesting was, on that same day that I got that notification, I was at a residential customer. I did a migration. It took a little bit of time. And even with me not sitting there the whole time while the migration took place, I made $1,000. We can sneeze at these one-offs, but sometimes they can be lucrative, and it was a little bit of effort on my part, 4 or 5 hours by the time all was said and done. But that was a 25% of what I'm making for providing managed services to this one client that I mentioned earlier. As much as we like to have clients who are subscribers exclusively, there's still a lot of fruit on the vine that we can partake, but not necessarily.
Agreed. Jerry, just because you mentioned this, my partner, he goes to this one woman's house year over year at the highest hourly rate that we bill because he's wealthy. And he makes $2,000 from helping her put together her Christmas cards for the season every year.
Wow,
Fantastic.
I'm like, dude, where were you for a few hours? I'm like, hey, I was at her house. I got a $2,000 check in my hands. I'm like, all right, I'll shut up.
Right. Yeah.
Merry Christmas.
Right. And to your point earlier, Jerry, about you're also not responsible for any of the stuff that we would normally take responsibility for, as far as making sure they're better managed and maintained. If they're just not going to do it, if they're not going to upgrade their machines, if they're not going to take your advice about other things, and you're still feeling that responsibility, like they're paying you monthly, even though they're not taking your advice, and even if they're not asking for help on things, there's still that like vague sense of liability and responsibility for the stuff that might go wrong. So if you offboard them as a monthly plan client, you suddenly no longer feel any liability over that or responsibility for it even. And if they're happy to pay for that kind of engagement, then why not? Yeah, all right, that makes sense. I guess that's a case by case thing, depending on how price sensitive they are and how much they might call you and ask you for help on different things. I have a couple of other PSAs here, just in time for the holidays. If you're in the market, AirTags have been on sale. I've got them pretty much everywhere I want them now, in each of my travel bags and my backpack that I use for just everyday use and things like that. But my wallet, I had one in my wallet, and it just makes the wallet like as we've joked, like a George Costanza wallet, or it sticks out a little bit. It's just not the most comfortable thing. So but I used that for about 2 years. And of course, the battery, like clockwork, starts to go around that time. And then I looked into alternatives, and I ended up going with a third-party device that is compatible with Apple Find My. It's called the KeySmart Smart Card. And it's like literally the size of a credit card. Maybe it's 2 credit cards thick or something like that. It's credit card size, very lightweight. It also recharges wirelessly. So you can literally just stick it on like on your MagSafe charger and charge it up. So it also doesn't have to deal with replacing batteries. And it shows up right in the Find My app under devices. I can play a sound. And it's water resistant. So it pretty much checks all the boxes. It's about $40 online. So it's more expensive than an AirTag, but I thought this was a nice upgrade to not have to walk around with that George Costanza wallet. It's got my seal of approval. It's even got a little, you could hang it almost like a badge, like a stinking badge for a conference or something like that. So continuing with the tips / kind of PSA stuff, I've had multiple examples lately of bad or faulty or failed marginal Thunderbolt or USB-C cables. Have you guys seen any of that stuff?
I have not.
So the first one happened with a client that had an Apple Studio display that was more or less out of the box, a new MacBook Air, I think, and an Apple Studio display. And I talked about it on the show. This was a few months ago. And she is like, the Mac would just keep going to sleep and waking up and asking for the password. She'd be in the middle of typing in Word or something like that, and it would just like the screen would lock, and then it would ask for the password. And we were troubleshooting it. We eventually, through using Adigy Live Desktop and just like monitoring in different ways while the issue happened, it looked to us like it's almost like your monitor's being unplugged and plugged back in. It thinks obviously that it's being disconnected. So I said, this is really surprising, because I made sure this is remote. She was using the cable that came with the new studio display. And there was like a maybe 1% or 5% question mark in my mind about, was that really the cable that came with it or something? But because we didn't install it, she's in another state and whatever. But I thought, all right, Apple's allowed one bad cable in all the millions of things they ship out. But even that rarely happens, right? They ship millions or billions of iPhones or whatever, and they all pretty much work. work. It's pretty impressive that they can maintain their supply chain to that degree and quality control. Actually, sidebar, I met a guy who's involved in that, and it's pretty impressive the amount of travel they do and the amount of oversight they have into every step of the process to ensure that when they ramp up production, they have all working units. And of all things to fail, it was a cable. And again, I thought maybe there's a chance that this was bad reporting on this part of the client, but so I put that in my back of my head. Then recently, I had a friend of mine who has a similar setup, like newish, brand new MacBook Air actually lately, and an Apple Studio display. And he was reporting that he had some issues and he replaced his cable and it worked. He's pretty tech savvy. So I said, wow, that's interesting. That's like the second one I've heard about of the Apple Studio display. And I don't know about you guys, but sometimes Apple has even repair extension programs or things that come up in the news about, oh, there's a big problem here. It's the something gate. This would be cable gate or whatever. And I oftentimes rarely even see that in practice with my clients. Maybe I just don't have enough clients or something, or they're not buying the current hardware often enough. But statistically, I think I'd see more of those, and I don't see as many. But this is the second one of the same failed out-of-the-box ThunderBolt cable with the Apple Studio display. So two more examples. So my Dell monitor that I've mentioned in my little, let's call it a college dorm home office setup here, as Jerry put it, has occasionally been faulty as well. And so I'll have the same kind of issue where my monitor is glitching out and coming back. And I haven't replaced the cable, but I found that turning it upside down will fix it indefinitely and this kind of thing. So my cable seems pretty marginal, which in the past, I don't remember ever really having cable issues. So this is not an Apple cable. This is just a USB-C cable. I think it was Anker. Got it on Amazon, and it's been working great until it's been a little faulty lately. Now, I do tend to unplug and reconnect it probably on average like once a day or every couple days, because I do go work remotely from a coffee shop. Maybe it's not quite. Maybe it's like a few times a week or something. So I think that wear and tear may have that effect. And that's the case, I think, with at least the first client that I mentioned, using her laptop and then plugging it in on a fairly regular basis. Then lastly, I had a different client, even more recently, who has an LG 5K ultrafine display connected via Thunderbolt 3 and using, I think, the cable that came with it. And she actually had at one point two, came with the Thunderbolt 3 cable. She had two of these monitors. So she had two setups. Now she's down to one. And she had the second one in the basement. I forget if she tried the second cable or not, but I basically gave her the link saying, here's a new cable. So her issue was, I'm connecting my monitor and it's intermittently not working. It isn't recognized. Or at first it was like intermittent, and then it became a lot more frequent where it just wouldn't wake up or wouldn't see the monitor. And I said, on the off chance it's the cable, because we've looked into other issues, what it might be, and I'm not sure what it could be, the power adapter. In the old days, if you were in clamshell mode and you disconnected the power adapter, it would basically turn off the monitor. Like the Mac is closed, there's no power adapter, it wouldn't stay on. Now I think they do stay on. But anyway, we tried other things, and I said, maybe it's the cable, because I've had these examples recently. So I'm just going to send you the link. And she tried it, and she said she has not had any problems since. So that's a lot of anecdotal evidence that it very well could be the cable, even if you're surprised that it couldn't be the Apple Studio display out of the box cable or after a few months. But in this case, I've had a couple of those even.
That's really interesting, Joe, because some of this has come up with one particular client who's using that same display that you just talked about, the LG 5K Ultrafine. Is that the one, the 27-inch one? Yep. And she was saying that the monitor doesn't light up. Right. And I have found that if, in fact, the computer restarts, let's say it does a software update and the computer restarts and you're at the login screen, that monitor actually won't light up until you log in on either the connected keyboard or on the MacBook Pro itself. And then the monitor lights up. So I think that clients sometimes have a trouble distinguishing between, has the monitor and the computer just gone to sleep? I'm waking up and now the monitor's not lighting up, or has the computer actually restarted? Because again, I don't know if this is expected behavior, but I have found that as soon as I just remotely log in for this one elderly client, all of a sudden the monitor lights up. And I think this is probably restarted, and that's what's going on here. So have you experienced anything like that?
That's a good question. I have experienced that myself on my computer, where sometimes I plug it in and I tap a key and it doesn't wake up. And like open the lid and then it lights up and the monitor lights up too. And I
have
log
that
in
all
and
the
then just
time.
close it. Yeah. So that might just be a buggy thing. I don't think that's expected behavior. I was going to say maybe that's a file vault like issue where if it's on the file vault login window, it doesn't drive the external display until you log in. But then you said, Jerry, that you logged in remotely and it lit up on her side. So that's, I don't know, that's different. I wonder if that could be a cable issue where, when the cable fails in a certain way, this is the result. I don't know.
Do you remember how buggy the LG monitor, when Apple didn't have any solution at all for a monitor, and they first came out with the MacBook Pro touch bars, and people that would use these LG monitors had such problems with them? Remember how there was a thing with the interference that the monitors were experiencing from the, wow. Yeah. Those were dark days.
Yeah, they were. Yeah. All right, I got one more on this topic about things I've recently been seeing. Have you guys seen Instagram hacks lately? It seems like they come in waves. Have you seen any of the recent wave?
Like legitimate hacks on some of your users?
Yeah, hack meaning somebody takes over the account of a client or someone.
Assuming no MFA or something like that, right?
Correct. It's always that they use some old janky password, no MFA, no phone on the account. So that's the issue is if they've got their Instagram account, they're just basically hanging out in the breeze and it's protected by a bad password that eventually a hacker gets. We all know that either credential stuffing or maybe it's phishing or something like that. And they get the password and they get into the account and then the hacker will change the password. Now there's a certain order and hackers probably like test out Instagram's adaptive security model, whatever that may be. But I assume if you try to do several of these changes in order, you may not be able to do them. So I assume if you change your password and then, you change your email address, you probably can't then add a phone number and lock the account down further. I've had cases where the end result is that the account password has been changed. The email has been changed. The client gets the email saying your email is now this, it's like a quick send dot something address.ch or something like that. That was one that a few used recently. So there must be like hacker tutorials that say, here's the best way to take a Instagram, get a free email account over here. And then, so they get an email saying, okay, your email address has been changed on your account. If this wasn't you, click here within whatever amount of time. And then they don't do that. And then they call us like 5 days later. And so then we come in and also they weren't using multi-factor. They didn't have a phone number on the account. So now the hacker adds their phone number on the account. So now it's different password, different email, and different phone number. It's basically, this actually isn't your account anymore. This Instagram account doesn't belong to you. There's no one has any idea that this is your account because all of the data has been changed. I even found one example where you look up the account username and it's this username doesn't exist. So I don't know if the hacker posted a bunch of Bitcoin ads or something on their account and then got it blocked so that the account was just deleted or something because it was like scammy. Or if the hacker now maybe changes the username at a certain point because all they want to do is avoid you trying to find a way back in. So it's gotten super messy. And when a client takes that long to get in touch with us, again, there's very little you can do. The initial thing would be like, your password changed. If this wasn't you, like, okay, so that's one way you can get back in. You get the email when your password's changed and you can fix that. Or again, same thing. If you change your email address on the account, you have a window of time where you can undo that change, but they ignore that until they get locked out of their Instagram account or they realize they're locked out. And then again, lastly, if they hadn't put in a phone number on the account, now it's probably too late because the hacker put theirs in. And there's probably an email about that where you can like undo that for a period of time. But again, they often wait too long. So a while back, it got on my radar that Instagram has an internal process for this. It's like a friends and family method. I have somebody on the inside who literally referred to it as that. So it's friends and family support, and they can submit a support request saying, hey, my mom's Instagram got stolen, and this is her username, and blah, blah, blah. You need to provide an email address that has not been used with any Instagram account. So sometimes the client has to create a new Gmail or whatever. So you need to provide that to the Instagram internal support, and then they'll get back to you. Of course, that means you have to know someone at the company. I know someone who is family of a client that just went through this, and they're not really able to offer support for us because they have to know the person that they're requesting support for. But that person said that Instagram support, their internal support, wasn't very helpful and just kept closing the tickets that this internal Instagram employee or Meta employee was opening without doing anything. So basically, he's getting as good support as we're getting on the outside, essentially. And they only have very limited external support. But he said that Meta Verified is an option that should be much better, where they do offer support for people. Again, it's like we've talked about, people that sign up for a plan get prioritized for good reason. But I don't know if you can sign up for Meta Verified if you have already lost access to your account. Maybe you could set up a new account. So it's oh, good, no problem. Just sign up for Meta Verified. Yeah, I wish I could. So maybe you can sign up for a brand new Instagram account and then sign up for Meta Verified and then get someone like on the phone, so to speak, or in email that you can then plead your case to about your previous account. So it's tricky, but yeah, if any listeners out there have an internal process that we're able to access or know about the right hoops to jump through, it would really help a few of my clients.
Like an ACN Instagram number.
Yeah, like a tier
level 2 Instagram.
Yeah, exactly.
Joe, you seem to have a few people on the inside of different industries. You got someone on the inside of Instagram. I think you said someone on the inside that distributes Apple cables. How do you make all these connections?
I don't know. It's a good question. The Apple people that I know on the inside, out apart from the ACN that kind of we all know, I know a few of them through Burning Man, through my Burning Man camp.
Sam, you got to hang out at Burning Man.
There it is.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a company like any other, and they have social lives. If you find out they like golfing, you say, let's go play around a golf.
So you were very helpful just a couple of days ago, Joe. I had this panicked call from this one client. It's a healthcare company, and they have 2 Macs in the creative department. And I get this emergency message. You have to call us right back right away. They're Mac Studios, and they're running Ventura. And the person says, oh, I just got a call from security, and there's a 0-day vulnerability on the Apple, and we got to have these patched right away. I said, I regularly patch your machines. There should be no issue here. Oh, they want to, we're going to pull them off the network. Pull them off.
But they're definitely not getting patched at that point.
Yeah.
So he gave me the security reference, these 2 CVE references, which one is 42916 and 42917. And so while I had the guy on the phone, I quickly looked him up and I said, are you sure these look like they're for iOS and for iPad? I said, your computers are running Ventura. This is a fully supported operating system, and we're currently at 13.6.1. And he's, oh, security, that's all these guys do is read this stuff all day. So you gotta look into it. And so this is a very good customer for me. So I'm like, I take this seriously. Not bothering me. This is wonderful. I'm going to look into this.
This is wonderful.
So every place I'm looking, I'm seeing this conflicting information that there's no Ventura update for Macs running 13.6.2. It doesn't exist. I don't know where to look. I'm confused. I'm a simple caveman. And so, Joe, you helped me out. You directed me to an Apple security bulletin, which talks about the last security releases over the past several iterations of all the operating systems. And then I was still looking a little bit deeper. I was trying to download the update on these Mac Studio Macs, and the Mac Studios were not finding anything. And I thought it had to do with my nudge policy or my Adigy policy. I'm pushing out the policy again to these machines, and I'm turning all the dials and knobs at Adigy and nudge, and I'm nudging it. And meanwhile, I got these 2 people off the computer, and it's in the middle of their workday. And I said, I just got a call from this person in IT, and they're saying security says that we got to do this. So let me look into this. Just don't go back online until, so I'm remoted in and I'm doing all this stuff. And come to find out, and by the way, you sent me that article. I look at the article, I verified everything that you said. And then several hours later, I send you back the same link saying, I think this says that you don't need to do it. So it doesn't exist. There's no 13.6.2. What is this nonsense for Ventura, for Mac Studios? Studio. And I guess it only applies to certain iMacs and certain MacBook Pros. But boy, what a clouded world we live in.
Yeah. So this bit me too. And I figured out pretty quickly. I think I saw some fodder on Slack and then I looked, of course, I checked the link that I sent you and confirmed it. And that all happened when this 13.6.2 came out. A lot of times we've been noticing like Apple will update Sonoma first and then maybe Ventura and Monterey shortly thereafter, typically. And so they had updated Sonoma to 14.1.1 on November 7th. And at the same time, same day, they released macOS Ventura 13.6.2. And I thought, wow, this is great. It's the same day. It's day and date with the Sonoma update. So I'll just update my nudge policy and push this out to all my machines. And so I did that. And then I get it on my machine. I get the prompt, you got to update. So I go in and I click it. And I'm like, let me see what my clients are going to see. Sometimes I just test the workflow, right? Is this still working? It's a sanity check. And I get to software update and it's, you're up to date at 13.6.1. No, nothing to see here. And so I'm like, man, software update. I'm like shaking my fist. This is such a pain. So I go into Adigy. I run the Kickstart software updates community script and the little variation that I created. And I'm like kickstarting software update on my machine, checking again. All right, no problem. Let me just check again. Doesn't come up. I'm like, you know what? I'm like, man, software update is getting worse. This is terrible. I can't believe it. I can't even kickstart it. Let me restart. Let me kickstart it again. Didn't work. Let me kickstart it and then restart. I'm just like, I'm like forcing my machine to see this update like one way or another. And it's just not seeing it. So then I dig a little deeper. And that's when I found that, like you said, macOS Ventura 13.6.2 on the Apple security releases page, it shows available for MacBook Pro 2021 and later and iMac 2023 model. And that's it. So it does not apply to any other hardware. So no one else will see that. So I quickly updated my nudge policy again and pulled that. And later that night, my wife said, I keep getting this prompt and it's not working. And I'm like, sorry, that was me. I screwed that one up. But thankfully, I didn't even hear from any clients. It's nice to know that the policy took effect immediately and my wife saw it. No one else really was bothered by it. But yeah, so that was on my radar. Now, the interesting thing is underneath that in the Apple security releases page, it says this update has no published CVE entries. So there was no security component of that update as far as what's published. And I think that was to fix some kind of issue where, I don't know, the monitors wouldn't turn on after going to sleep, or it was some issue that certain devices, and only like some of those devices were experiencing. So they patched it for just those devices. So then this gets a little bit even more interesting. So then just last week, they updated Sonoma again to 14.1.2, and that's available for any Sonoma machine again. They've also listed the Safari update and iOS and iPadOS updates there on the same page, on the same date, on the standard Apple security releases page. So I went in and I updated the nudge policy once again, just for Sonoma, because there's as yet no update to Ventura or Monterey on the security updates page. However, I got an email from Adigy yesterday. This is December 5th, so this is all old news by the time anybody hears this, but that 13.6.3 is available within Adigy. So I guess that update is out, just not yet added to Apple's security updates page. I'm going to have to update my nudge configuration once again, once that's actually released. And I don't know about Monterey, but that may be coming soon too. But they seem to be updating, as you would expect, Sonoma first, and then Ventura and or Monterey within a few days or a week or so later.
What say Mr. Apple over there?
Hey, I'm keeping quiet on this one. I tried to help via chat and you ignored me. Joe, you said Joe was the only one that helped you.
Because Joe's my nudge Adigy guy. If I was in my Jamf orange pajamas, I'd be pinging you.
I put in what you needed for nudge as well. I don't think I got to thank you, but that's okay.
You were helpful. I was in the heat of battle.
Yeah.
That's all right. Joe's the golden boy. Thank you, Joe.
The other thing is that Joe frequently uses me for jobs, Sam, and I'm still waiting for an HCS job.
Yeah, you got to scratch Jerry's back, then he'll scratch yours.
But maybe that's why you're getting the letters of commendation and Joe's not.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Maybe that's why Sam gets accolades from his clients and mine say. But keep trying, yeah. So 13.6.2, how would you handle that with Nudge? It's not something that Nudge can handle. As far as I know, Nudge doesn't have the capability to say, if a machine is running any version of 13, or if it's running 13.6.0, or you can specify. So my Nudge configuration is, if a machine's running 13 point anything, then require the latest, in this case 13.6.1, by whatever date. So that's my configuration. So all my machines generally stay up to date. Now, if my client happens to have the MacBook Pro 2021 and later, or the iMac 2023, they actually need 13.6.2. Thankfully, it's not for security reasons, as far as we know, because otherwise I'd feel like I really do need to figure out a way to make sure that they get that update. It's only for some kind of stability, compatibility issue, some bug or whatever. But
I do have an answer to this.
So what would you do then? Is there a solution using Nudge or something?
As of a couple days ago, I configured my Nudge I added 13.6.2. So it does pop up and then it looks for it and it's not there. But most of my clients don't do the update anyway. They just defer it. So no harm, no foul.
Oh, I see. Okay. So you're just like requiring it anyway, and then people are just going to see the update and then click it and then learn to expect that actually it's not going to work. This is a boy who cried wolf situation, because now you're training users to be annoyed by your prompt, click the thing, and then probably it doesn't actually work, and then just wait an hour and it happens again. For me, I don't think that would be good.
Yeah, but the frequency of nudges in every hour on the hour, and they defer it. So most users don't do the update because they're, air quotes, way too busy. So they just defer it anyway. Who cares?
Yeah. We're all busy. I won't even tell you about the updates anymore, then fine.
I had a client email me. She said, I'm getting this pop-up, the Time Machine doesn't work. And I looked in Adigy and she hadn't restarted her machine for 35 days. So I said, for starters, and of course I say this all in a very nice way, how about restarting your machine every 7 to 14 days? How about that? How about we do that? And so I looked back at several hours later after I had sent the email. It was the machine hadn't been restarted.
No, she's too busy.
Because she was,
right?
air quotes, too busy. Yeah.
Of course. I get it. I'm busy too, but I restart. I figured it out. Yeah. Everything resumes where you left off anyway, typically. Come on, guys, restart. I have a remediation set up in Adigy, or I get, maybe it's just a monitoring thing so far. I have my command control power restarts prompt configured as well, but I also get an alert from Adigy monitoring where if they haven't restarted in 90 days, I get one for 30 and I get one for 90. So I've taken to actually emailing clients when I get that and be like, please restart at your earliest convenience, basically, or earliest opportunity, blah, blah, blah. And sometimes they'll do it. I feel like conflicted about this because it's really annoying that I have to babysit them and say, you should restart your computer. I got an email about it. But it actually works, and it will probably save some other annoying call or complaint from them. So I do want to, I probably should automate that in some way. If it, I don't know, look them up in a table and find their email address. I don't know. Or maybe I just tag the record with their email address and then have the remediation send them an email or compose an email or something like that. Or I'll just ignore it like you're doing, Jerry, about.
That's the way to go.
Have you ever done this? When the computer's offline, you send it a restart command. So when they go to restart, they open their machine up, it just restarts. Yeah. I've done that.
Queue up the hard restart. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the classic. That's why we named the show, right? What we named it. And that's why our tagline is, have you tried restarting? Because it still works to this day. I think oftentimes you can go longer. It just goes to show you 30 days. The user wasn't even complaining, but you got to do it, guys.
Jerry does his voices of customers of all kinds.
Am I on the cloud?
Joe spins his deeply detailed yarns all the time.
I have a whole story about this.
Sam is on the road again, phoning in from a hotel.
At least we know where I am.
Half a century combined of Apple expertise right now. Right now. My Mac is slow. Have you tried restarting? Well, the fans won't blow. Have you tried restarting? But my data is gone. Have you tried restarting? I dropped it in the pond. Have you tried restarting? Well, my coffee is cold. Have you tried restarting? Well, I'm getting old. Have you tried restarting? I fell off a horse. Have you tried restarting? I'm getting a divorce. Have you tried restarting? Command, control, power. Command, control, Jerry does his voices of customers of all
on the cloud.
Joe spins his deeply detailed yarns all the time.
I have a whole story about this.
Sam is on the road again, phoning in from a hotel.
At least we know where I am.
Half a century combined of Apple expertise right now. Right now. My Mac is slow. Have you tried restarting? Well, the fans won't blow. Have you tried restarting? But my data is gone. Have you tried restarting? I dropped it